Time for what?
Time for what?
Experience in college.
Time for reinforcement.
Time for liftoff!
Where nothing is impossible unless you think it is impossible.
College.
I have my college scholarship.
Yes.
Boom.
College ran by real fast.
You hung in with the best college.
First time for everything.
Well, what are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
Let's do this thing.
Genius, let's do this thing!
Welcome to the show, everyone. We are here in Malibu. Yes, I said Malibu in Southern California. And here we are with an amazing student, Jordan. Jordan, can you introduce everyone about where you're originally from in California or anywhere in the world? And then also tell them what class and what you're studying here.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name's Jordan. I'm originally from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm currently a public relations student, first-year student here at Pepperdine.
So now, what made you look at Pepperdine and what other campuses were in the competition?
Yeah, so I originally applied to mainly California schools. I was looking at University of San Francisco for a little while and then UH Manoa in Hawaii. But I think Pepperdine just really... I think the community of Pepperdine was something that I was really drawn to. I took a tour here in the middle of COVID, actually, when there was nobody here. But the way that the staff and the students that were leading the tour had just made Pepperdine feel so welcoming and so at home, just made me feel very, I just felt like a sense of belonging here almost. And then I was able to talk to a few of the students that were here just about classes and what Pepperdine is really like when obviously when we come back to school after COVID. And they just made it seem like such a fun school where you can really get to know people on a deeper level just because the school is smaller. And I think that's also just something I was kind of looking for in a school. And it's honestly just lived up to my expectations since I've been here.
Oh, well, then Pepperdine's very lucky, and so are you. So now as I was climbing up the stairs, because we're still in the pandemic, I noticed no masks and everything. So how do you feel that Pepperdine's been handling the pandemic and right now where we're at with COVID?
Yeah, I honestly think Pepperdine's been doing a good job of, or at least they've been handling COVID in a way that's been comfortable for students, staff, and the community. At least that's what I've seen in my personal beliefs. At the beginning of the school year, it was very strict on COVID and COVID testing, and especially after kind of just following LA County's COVID mandates and all that stuff. So even after LA started being a little bit more lenient about mask mandates and COVID testing stuff, Pepperdine still kind of played it safe a little bit and hanging back just to make sure that the students and staff are being safe from COVID. And I think that it's something that they still take very seriously, but as COVID's obviously changing and LA's changing too, they're kind of just adapting to whatever changes are being made.
I think COVID's like your mascot, the waves, right? It's very fluid and changes rapidly. Yeah. No. And so here, Pepperdine University, do you feel that because it's a Christian campus and it's a smaller community, though the beach doesn't hurt either, it brings this community to be really close? Because I'm surprised all the activity on campus, tables being out, small groups sitting with each other. How is that?
I totally think that Pepperdine is a really close-knit community. I think, yes, obviously it is a smaller school, so you're kind of just bound to know people a little bit more like that. But I think that just the way that the Pepperdine community is, really wants to get to know their students and really wants to bring that vibrant social life to its campus. And I think especially after COVID, something I've talked about a lot with upperclassmen is that it's something that they really missed, and staff members too, saying during COVID there was no one was on campus and everyone obviously was on Zoom. And so I think that coming back was something that is just really exciting for everyone. And so people are just really loving being able to connect with people again and be in person and just I don't know, just really enjoying the Pepperdine community and being face to face with one another again.
Oh no, it's really important. Now, but there is fraternities and sororities, but there's also no co-ed dorms.
Yes.
Right? So tell me how that plays out on a Christian campus.
Yeah, so the dorming situation is it's not co-ed. In freshman housing, I think it's maybe like 50 students of like the same gender in each house. And even though it's not co-ed, I feel like Pepperdine isn't super strict. Like, you can still have like friends of the opposite sex like come and hang out in your dorms, and like it doesn't restrict you from like still making those types of like connections and friendships. I feel like some students at other like universities, like it's easier for them just because not all housing like is the same as Pepperdine's. But I mean, I haven't seen any problems with it. Like, I personally, like, I don't know, I feel like it's just still a fun way to like connect with the people in your dorm, but then also like you still get to have those connections with people outside of it.
I heard, and to verify these rumors, community service require 3 times a week seminars. You know, what is that true? Is it not true? And then are they great, or is it very strict? What are they all about?
Yeah, so I don't think those are necessarily true. I know that for freshmen and sophomores, there's a once a week seminar that we have to, program that like I went through last semester and I did this semester for like I think 4 or 6 weeks, and it's pretty much like, it's kind of like a skill building program that Pepperdine does, just like help students with resilience and like being able to develop like other skills that like kind of build character almost. I enjoyed my one last semester. You can choose which ones you're in. I really enjoyed my one last semester. I also enjoyed my one this semester too, but I think they also just offer a bunch of different options of which ones. And I think I just didn't necessarily enjoy mine this semester as much because it wasn't specific to something that I actually enjoyed. So I think if I had chosen a different option, my experience could have been a lot better, but I still really enjoyed it too. So.
And you have a beautiful chapel. Wow, what a great peaceful place. Now, is chapel time required for every campus regardless of their religious belief? And can non-Christians come to here on campus?
Yeah, totally. So there aren't any chapel requirements or like I guess like church requirements, I guess you could say, because Pepperdine is a Christian school, but there aren't any requirements. I think that one like seminar thing kind of branches off of what people like would consider a like religious requirement, just because in said seminar like it focuses on like skill and character building, but also they do talk about just like different values that Pepperdine holds, but not necessarily in a way that's like enforcing them onto the students, but more of like this is why Pepperdine does this because of the values that we have. Yeah. And so I think that Pepperdine isn't like students of any like religious affiliation or non-affiliation are very much welcome at Pepperdine, because I don't think that they don't force it on students. At least hasn't been my experience. No. And I think that's been consistent what I've been hearing. And then does that require once a week or more? It is once a week, but it doesn't last for the entire semester, and so we did it for maybe 5 or 6 weeks, I think, and then we didn't have to continue it after. Oh, okay. So, all right. So, and it's a dry campus, but it doesn't mean you have to be completely dry. Of course, after you're 21, off campus too, right? And then one of the things is, as I was walking around the closed classroom, there's a learning center, your career center, science is off the hook. As a public relations major, what have you heard, and also with your other classmates, about the support you get not only in your classrooms, but then beyond that? Yeah, totally. So I think that within the classrooms, at least, like the professors, I'll speak more for like the professor first. Professors try really hard to have those connections with their students. Like, I know some of my friends have gone to, like, there are some faculty that live on campus, and so they'll have like their classes come up to their house for dinner and like continue like classroom discussions or just like catch up about life and like just try to get to know them on more of a personal level. And I think that because the professors and faculty are all pretty much like experts, I would say, like within their field, like they're very knowledgeable and are able to like help students with whatever like academic needs and questions that they have, which I find like amazing, because like having that type of support and knowing that someone that's like knows a lot about what you're trying to learn, it's like very helpful. In terms of beyond the classroom, I think that community is something that exists like outside of class. Like being able to make connections with your peers and with like your, even not necessarily your professors, but like the faculty that like oversees like your divisions. Like I have a friend that's very close with their faculty advisor, and just being able to have that type of support and like finding a direction of like where they want to go like after college, and just kind of like life advice and like help, I feel like is something that's awesome and is something that you can totally find here at Pepperdine.
No, I know 26-year-olds who still need some life advice. 56-year-olds too, especially those folks. No. So also, I was here 10 years ago, and I was like, oh, like beautiful campus, really supportive and collaborative, but the diversity wasn't there. You didn't see like there's too many people from different groups. And then here, I was thinking like, oh, is that going to be the same? But it feels a little bit different. But how does that feel for you? And then I don't know if you feel comfortable telling on the podcast, how do you identify?
Yeah, sure. And so I identify as a Pacific Islander Asian American, and I do think that Pepperdine, I think just like demographically, it is a predominantly white school, and diversity stems from many different places and at Pepperdine, but I do think that there could be a little bit more opportunities for not necessarily people of color specifically, but just different demographics at Pepperdine. However, that hasn't negatively impacted my experience here. I think that the community is still really strong and is really supportive. I have a friend that is the head of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council here at Pepperdine, and the work that they do to really just implement diversity on campus is like really strong, I think. And so even though there aren't necessarily as many, it's all like the different groups on campus that aren't the majority, I think there is a lot more space for that and like for those types of experiences and stories to be heard on campus. But I do think that Pepperdine does make efforts to kind of try and like just kind of like give the microphone to those types of students and like really implement that within like their day-to-day.
So having that safe place, having that inclusion of hearing your voice and seeing who you are, and then constantly growing and making sure everyone feels belong, which we all have a lot of work that we need to do. Yeah. And how is Pepperdine with diversity of ideas, whether it be in the classroom or in the dorm room?
Yeah, I think that Pepperdine, I feel like there's still some work that could be done. I like in terms of not only listening to the idea, like the different ideas that students in the community have, but being a lot better of like actually implementing them and like actually following through with said ideas. But that doesn't mean that. But at the same time, I feel like Pepperdine's very open to listening and hearing, and like I think that those actual like taking action steps are something that hopefully Pepperdine like continues on in the future. But I do still feel like voices are heard on campus, and that stories are very much accepted and like welcomed, and those different experiences and perspectives are something that like Pepperdine values.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
I know Waves are your mascot.
Yes.
How are the sports? I know everyone talks about your tennis, because your tennis courts are unbelievable.
Yes.
But do a lot of students go to the games, and what are the big popular games here?
Students, I mean, honestly, I feel like Pepperdine, like we obviously do support our sports teams, basketball, and we don't have a football team on campus just because our school is a lot smaller.
Just for everyone to know, if you're not familiar with Malibu, you're on a mountain, and and they're surrounded by mansions. I think average is maybe $115 million, or more. I think I saw 200. I think the cheapest one I saw on sale is $21 million.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Yes,
that's crazy. So there isn't room for a football field, unfortunately. But yeah, I would say that basketball, volleyball, our women's soccer team is amazing. So those are a lot of like our tennis team as well. Like a lot of our teams on campus. Oh, and our men's golf team. I think they won the championship last year, which is incredible. I think that students definitely support athletics on campus, just because like I think not as much as other like bigger schools, just because like Pepperdine's more like academic heavy, and so like students, I feel like at a lot of schools it's either like it's not necessarily a balance of like academics and sports like favor. It's more of just like one or the other. And I think that Pepperdine kind of leans more on the like academic focus side, but we do still love our sports teams and do still love supporting them whenever like their games are here.
Oh no, I mean, it was a competitive year for students to get in recently. So it's like, it was very different 10 years ago. So it's like, oh, you had that high GPA and you still didn't get in, and you've done a lot, right?
Insane. I can't believe that I'm even here. Like,
no.
Very happy that I am.
I can't believe it's not just about the GPA. It's about that whole person, which is what Pepperdine is all about,
Yes,
right? So if you had to give Pepperdine, if they were listening to this, words of wisdom of one thing that you think is that you would change or to improve, what would that be?
That's a good question. I feel like I would say to listen more to the student, not necessarily student voices, but student opinions and student feedback.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one. I know
Listen
that,
and follow through.
Yeah, exactly. Listen and follow through. I know that a big one, this is actually a change that will be happening in Pepperdine, but like our cafeteria, for example, I know that students aren't the biggest fan of our cafeteria food, but they recently just announced that they're switching like the people that provide food for our campus.
Oh, good.
And so I think that that's a good example, but
It's kind of hard down this